Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. And what a day this is. I must tell you that I woke up this morning thinking that I knew what I was going to do, but as news develops instantaneously, we have to respond instantaneously, and that, my friends, is our goal. Let's begin with the top stories of the day and how they impact us. First, David Walden, former congressman, a physician, has had his nomination as director of the CDC withdrawn. The reason? He's an anti-vaxxer. His statements are outrageous, egregious, including the idea that autism is caused by vaccines. Wait a minute. That sounds exactly like Robert Kennedy Jr. Well, you should know that Robert Kennedy Jr. also supported the withdrawal of the nomination of David Walden. But more than that, those are the views that Bobby Kennedy Jr. espouses. There is a problem with this administration and the way it nominates and the way it concludes that people are qualified for a nomination to lead a major department. Walden's nomination has been withdrawn. Moments ago, he was supposed to begin testifying. He isn't now. But do you understand there is a consistency and an inconsistency? The consistency is that whether it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or David Walden, this is a position adopted by people who would run the health system in this country. The inconsistency is that Walden withdrew, but not Robert Kennedy Jr. There is something wrong, and I want to say it emphatically. The second major issue which we confront this morning is the fact that as I begin this recording, Vladimir Putin has visited Kursk and evidently is saying that he will not buy into the proposed so-called peace deal, or at least ceasefire, by the Trump administration. If Russia does not abide by what some think would make the preliminary move toward peace, what happens next? And I have to tell you something, and if you've listened to me carefully, you know, I've never believed a ceasefire was the way to go. There is only one solution to the problem of Russia and Ukraine, and that is the Russian withdrawal to the borders which are established. Of course, Putin won't do that. And the question is, what will Trump do now? Will Trump come down hard? Will he say to Putin, this is unacceptable? And if, in fact, that's true, will Donald Trump impose the sanctions that he has said he would impose on Russia? Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is a tense situation because we have two superpowers, both of whom have nuclear weapons. And by the way, Putin has threatened to use nuclear weapons. And we have Donald Trump who, frankly, well, his idea of peace is surrender to Putin. Why is Putin not accepting the deal? Because the Russians are winning on the ground. And that means for Putin, there's no reason to stop fighting. This is going to be a fascinating moment, and we will hear a lot about it today and tomorrow, and I think in the weeks ahead. Remember, the United States just sent a mission to Russia to talk with the Russians about this question. Well, what's going to happen now? I must tell you, and I say it again, and I say it emphatically, the only solution is the withdrawal of Russia from Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign country. We gave them guarantees in 1995. Those agreements, signed on by the United States, Great Britain, and the then president of Russia, Boris Yeltsin, have been violated. If Russia is really sincere, they better get out. Remember that in that agreement, we guaranteed Ukrainian security in return for the fact that Ukraine gave up the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world, Ukraine's. Well, let me tell you something. We now know that an agreement with Putin means nothing, right? Of course. Where is Donald Trump in all of this? We will find out later today. And then we have the spending bill to prevent a government shutdown passed by the Republicans in the House of Representatives. And do you know what the Republicans then did? They went home. They're on recess. Do you know that if by tomorrow an agreement is not reached, what's going to happen is that there will be a government shutdown. Now, the whole government doesn't shut down, but a portion of the government shuts down. Government workers will not be paid. In order to work out a deal, if in fact what Chuck Schumer has said in the Senate, the Democrats won't vote for this deal that has been proposed by the Republicans in the House, what that means is that the members of the House of Representatives who've all flown home are going to have to fly right back to come up with a deal. I want you to know that I believe with perfect faith that the government will not shut down. I have to believe that. I don't think the Republicans or the Democrats want it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe the Republicans will just be bullheaded enough not to offer to sit down with the Democrats, which is what they ought to do. I'm throwing this out to you today because I want you to know that Republicans claimed competence. They claimed they would be able to accomplish things. Have you noticed the one key element here? Donald Trump hasn't asked the Republicans in Congress to do a thing. That's right. He's ruling by executive order. That's what I said yesterday when I said we can't have a president who rules by executive order. Well, I got news for you. There's one thing this president cannot do. He cannot prevent a government shutdown unless Congress comes. Now, wait, there's more. Do you understand that if there is a government shutdown, Donald Trump will have the discretion to decide what is in fact going to be done on individual basis with so many people and agencies affected? This may be what Donald Trump wants, to be very honest with you, because then he and Elon Musk can sit down and say, well, we can chop here, we can chop there. It's very concerning. These issues that I am raising with you now go to the very heart of the American system. And we have a dysfunctional system. No, actually, what we have is a dysfunctional administration. The Republicans and Donald Trump do not seem to know how to govern. All they seem to know how to do is to cut and trim and blast away without any thought, without any consideration. This is a moment of truth. And I have to tell you, the thousands of employees that have been laid off in numerous government departments, they're going to court to sue. And I don't blame them. I would too, because I don't believe that Donald Trump should have the power that he is asserting he has. And I believe that if it were tested, truly tested, Donald Trump would be stopped cold in his tracks. I remember when the Supreme Court ruled that Richard Nixon could not impound funds. Remember that? Well, I'm waiting for the Supreme Court to stand up to Donald Trump. It has to, if we are going to preserve the American system. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to watch today as we see who Trump will nominate to head the CDC. What will happen with Ukraine? And what will happen with the spending bill to prevent a government shutdown, and what the Republicans are going to do now. And yes, what the Democrats are going to do in the Senate. Well, they've already told us they're going to vote against the Republican bill. I must tell you that the most frustrating thing for me is to plan what I'm going to say and then to have to extemporaneously respond as I am this morning. But that's what Around the Political World with John Rothman is supposed to do. And by the way, that's what the Democrats should have done in their response to Donald Trump last week in the Congress, when Trump addressed the joint session of Congress. You have to be able to respond instantaneously, directly, and with all the power of logic that you can muster. That's what we need right now from the Democrats. Now, I know that there are a lot of issues. Every day I come in here, I've got a list of 20 things at least that I could talk about. But I've tried today to summarize what I think are the top 3. But may I tell you something? There's a lot more. And we'll talk about it, I hope, in the days and weeks and months ahead, right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman. Thanks for tuning into another episode. Make sure to follow along. Let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or a colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. That is, of course, our goal. You can interact with me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and, of course, by emailing me directly. And I want to say a special word of thanks to Go Soaker. Don't worry, Go. The federal government may be laying people off. Donald Trump may be laying people off. But you've got a secure job right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you all tomorrow.